Hi, I'm Backrooms Dad, or Liminal Dad, or the Backrooms Dad, or the Liminal Dad. I haven't decided what I want to call it. I've wanted to do a series though on my channel because I love the Backrooms. I love liminal spaces, as many people do. I was looking, without knowing what the name of it was, I was looking for the Backrooms in the late 70s and early 80s. The idea of it. When it came around, when my son, I heard when he started telling me about it, I was like, well, that sounds exactly like what I was trying, where I was trying to go or experience, roaming around office buildings, empty floors of office buildings back then in the late 70s, early 80s. It means a lot to me. And this wasn't the video that I wanted to have initially to inaugurate a series of videos, but it's the one I'm going to do. And it's mainly having to do with a video that I saw by a YouTuber named Broogli, who is kind of like the preeminent Backrooms YouTuber as far as information about the Backrooms and the lore and all things Backrooms. He's kind of, I guess, the Michael Jackson or whatever, Britney Spears of that. He had a video. I saw a video. His last video he did, or one of his last videos by this point, which was talking about something having to do with the Backrooms. And I'm not somebody who I don't, I hate in videos when there's like a extensive backstory, like, well, if you don't know what the Backrooms is, let me tell you. I mean, if you just go look it up, go look up what liminal spaces are, go look up what the Backrooms is. I'm just gonna skip over that and just start talking beyond that. So there's the Backrooms is a place that you trip into, so to speak, or more accurately, no clip into. And so Broogli had this video talking about, well, basically saying that people misunderstand how no clipping works, what it is, and going from what is our reality into the Backrooms initially, and then going from level to level within the Backrooms. Just to summarize what I'm gonna say, I think that he is misunderstanding it, and that's surprising, because I really wasn't expecting to hear him say what he said. I think it was half right, but half right as far as the science goes, but the rest wrong, having to do with the nature of the Backrooms and what it is and what it should be to him or anybody who's interested in it. So what am I talking about? What was he talking about? Broogli took a diversion with his video, where he explored a more scientific route in explaining where he was coming from. No clipping is, in a sense, how people get from what is our reality into the Backrooms. It has to do with a space that looks like it's solid but isn't, and objects and humans that step into or fall into it go through what seems to be a solid object through the floor, through the wall, through the ground, into the back rooms. And how he explained this, as far as the science, I totally agree with. I mean, it makes sense. He was just, first of all, it goes without saying that you have to suspend your disbelief that the back rooms isn't real. Beyond that, it comes down to quantum mechanics is what he was saying. And he admittedly said, I'm just a YouTuber and I'm going to simplify this explanation for, how I want it to apply to the discussion. And I'm going to, I guess, summarize it even more simplify in a more simplified manner. He was talking about how what's necessary to no clip or to phase or to find a null zone between two solid objects. It's like, the reason why my hand can't pass through the other hand is because they're two solid objects which are made of an unfathomable amount of quantum particles. And each one of these just beyond microscopic size particles has a wave signature, is a wave. And the rate at which the wave fluctuates causes it to bounce off of or interact with other particles near it. The fact that they all have their own random signature creates objects that become solid. So that's what creates the object. The accumulation of these quantum particles with their own wave signature bouncing off each other creates an object. And then the object in itself, when it interacts with another object, doesn't pass through it because of randomized wave signatures. So what is that? What am I saying there? What does that mean? Or what is he saying? He was saying that when you no clip, you have like a space in the ground. A space in the ground that is able to copy the wave signature of every particle of an object. And because it's a mirror image, when the object interacts with what looks like a solid object, but is mirroring the wave signature of all of the object's quantum particles, it creates a phase situation where it can passes through because it's equal to the object, which allows it to pass through. And he explains that this is, such a rare occurrence. It's very rare and random, but that the way he explains it just doesn't, honestly, it doesn't do the Backrooms, the nature and the concept, the idea, what the Backrooms is, it doesn't do it justice. It almost tries to describe it from, an outside perspective that isn't wrapped up in what the concept is, just kind of like a, when you see a movie with a team of scientists that come in, it's like they obviously have degrees, they're smart, they're experts in their field, and it's all over 80s movies, this idea where they come in and they try to control and exploit or understand some kind of scientific principle that's happening, some kind of fantasy or science fiction thing happening, and they don't get it, and they, they're the bad guys. They don't understand what's happening. They don't understand the essence of it. It's like they're so by numbers and by the book and by their training that they're not thinking out of the box. They're not thinking of whatever it is, the thing that they're trying to understand or control is in itself. They're not standing outside themselves to see what it is. And that's, what I kind of feel like Broogli was doing in his video, which doesn't make sense because, he's such a Backrooms fanatic. He's saying that he's trying to explain it as like this is a random occurrence. So, when people no clip from our reality, again, this is obviously fantasy, but no clip from our reality into the Backrooms. You're talking about just such an impossible scenario of. Just think how many quantum particles are in a human body. And then you have the surface of like a basement floor, and that it somehow mirror images the wave patterns of the bodies to where the body can pass through the floor going into the Backrooms, into this other realm. That's just so unlikely, trying to explain it in real terms. I mean, but so what is really going on then? I mean, what did he miss? What is really happening? I mean, and it just, to me, it seems obvious, that the Backrooms is an entity. It's some kind of an organism or entity in itself. You think about, and it's laying a trap. It's laying a trap for certain kind of people. You look at the places that typically people no clip out of reality into the Backrooms, and it's always, most likely it's areas that are kind of off the beaten path. The edge of a wooded area, the ground in an edge of a wooded area, basement floor, a wall in an apartment, the ground outside of an abandoned area, or behind in a building. It's never in a place, I mean, I'm not saying it hasn't been before, but it doesn't seem to want to, these zones don't want to seem to pop up in areas where it's densely populated, like Times Square or a busy mall or Walmart, just something that could that could ensnare anybody. It seems like it's looking for a certain kind of person, somebody, obviously somebody who's got a VHS based camcorder in the 90s, or early 2000s, early digital video camcorder. That's who it's looking for. It's looking for somebody. You think about like an old school, like animal trap or something with a box, and a stick and a string tied to the stick, going back into a bush where the person who constructed the trap is hiding, waiting for the animal to go take whatever bait is left under the box, and then it pulls the string and the stick flies away and the box goes down on top of the prey. That's what the Backrooms is doing. I mean, that seems like just intuitively, I feel like that's what the Backrooms is and what it does. It looks for a certain kind of person. It's not, time is meaningless to the Backrooms, and quantity. is meaningless to the Backrooms. It doesn't need to just like get tons and tons of human beings, just like setting a trap in Times Square, and anybody who's just walking through is just like there's tons of people falling in, one after the other. It's looking for a certain kind of person to fall in, or to be lured in. You're thinking about, and that going back to like what happens in a lot of these no Backrooms videos when somebody eventually no clips or falls through the floor, whatever. You'll see like a basement floor and somebody saying like, oh, I this is such a weird thing. I found that there's like these objects just disappearing through the floor, and they have like a hammer, and they throw a hammer and it just goes right through the ground, and then they pick up something else, a rope, or a marble, a rock, something. I mean, according to what Broogli was saying, you're just talking about, especially in that scenario where there's like several objects going ahead of the person, that makes it even more random, more rare, more improbable. Trying to explain it from, hey, this is a rare occurrence that just pops up and you just happen to step into the wrong place. No, I mean, somebody throws a hammer, they throw these different objects, a ball, a chair, whatever. That's the Backrooms basically controlling the quantum wave particles of all these objects. It knows that it wants the person. Ultimately, it knows the person is there. It knows the person even days before. It's wooing the person to be in that situation, and then they the final stages is them throwing a hammer in, and it just like in that moment it mirror images the what looks like a solid floor to be the same wave pattern of all the quantum particles of that hammer, to where it just passes through. And then he's like, oh wow, here's a golf ball, throwing the golf ball, and it mirror images in that moment. It just like it changes to mirror image that golf ball that goes through. And then the person gets too close, and perhaps it expands the area larger than what it was before, as part of the trap. It's part of the animal trap, because it wants that person. It wants them there. And this is, to me, that's intuitive. That's intuitive what the Backrooms is and what it wants, what it is as an organism, as some kind of entity in itself that can control that. I mean, we would never in our lifetimes, I don't think, get to the point where we would have that control in our reality to control that level of quantum particle nature on a wave level for such large objects as a human being. Even the size of a marble or a stone would be very unlikely that we would ever get to that point in our lifetimes right now. But the Backrooms is different. It's just it's an entity, and just thinking outside the box of what it is, and and I feel like it's all there to see. It's just it's all there to notice and view, and have an intuitive knowledge of that's why. And when you look at it that way, it kind of gets rid of that. I mean, the way Broogli describes it, it's like it asks you to just like really put aside a lot of things, and you end up like, wow, this is, the way he described it makes it seem like it would be so random, just to like these random occurrences, like, hey, there just happens to be this thing there. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. That what makes sense is that that the Backrooms is an organism that's controlling, plotting, preying on, setting the trap, taking its time, luring these people in one by one at its own space, at its own speed, its own pace. Broogli, I think you misunderstood the backroom, what the no clipping is and how it works. The science part, no, I totally agree with it. But the concept, the idea, the what's the word I'm thinking of? It's a common word. I mean, once I say it, it'll be like, oh, that's the word you couldn't think of. The intention of the Backrooms. That's what the intention is. I think I'm just gonna start repeating myself even more at this point, so I'll just shut it off. But that's my assessment of what I just saw in Broogli's video, and I was very surprised that he doesn't see it this way. You know, I mean, because to me, he's looking at it like like the scientists in E.T. or whatever movie, you know, from the 80s or 90s, where the team of scientists come in and try to control something that they don't understand, or try to understand something that they can't control, and kind of become the bad guys, or the bumbling boobs, bumbling broogs. But otherwise, I love his channel. It's great. I enjoy watching. He's a good YouTuber. Something just kind of struck me. I was just surprised, you know, watching it. I was surprised, honestly. And yeah. So I've been wanting to start this, you know, a series on my channel called Liminal Dad or Backrooms Dad, which I will. And I was gonna have like another kind of video, just kind of inaugurating that. But you know, I guess this is the one. May not make sense or be relevant, but it is what it is. So there you go. Take care.